We're going to be looking at configuring aspects and beans with annotations. So previously we have done all of our beans and configurations in an XML file. Now we will move all these configurations and beans into a file defined by means of Java annotations. So this is like a little bit more common. It's going to require some changes now. Since we want to get beans from the order class, it needs to be a Spring component. So let's go to our order. Remember, we want to get things from our order class for beans, right? The orders, every time we call an order, it's a bean. So that means it's going to be a component of what we're doing. So we're going to have the component annotation here. Now we need annotations for our aspect configuration class because this is configuring our aspect. So if we go up to here, we are going to have @aspect because it is an aspect, right? That's why we called it aspect config, just the why we chose the name. And then we have to have this as an @component because it's still an @component. Now inside of here, we're going to put our annotations around the methods since we are using these in our advices, right? So around our print logo right here, we want to have this execution, right? And this is very similar to what we have in the XML file. So we have the execution, and then we just kind of have the path for it. We have this order, display order items, right? This is happening around this. So whenever we call display order items, we're going to display this logo around it. That's important to note. And then it's going to be very similar for, we're skipping get order, but it's going to be similar for our print order value, except this is only happening after our display order items. Okay, and then after the throwing, remember, with throwing, it's only activated when an exception is thrown by the join point. And then the after returning is only activated if there's no exception. So if there is an exception right here, we're putting this for our order class right here, we're going to throw a throwable. So in our order class, it's going to be anything inside of our order right here. But specifically for this, we are going to have this if statement right here. We're going to be checking this. But again, I could check any method inside of here. That's just how it would work, but it's for that. And then we have this, if we don't throw any kind of like error or anything, we're going to be inside of here and we're going to print this out. So that is going to be what we're doing. That's how we change it. This covers the annotations for aspects. Now we need to instantiate them with beans. So we're going to need a new configuration class. We can go to project, we can go to our com, Lunicorn, and we're going to make a new class in here. This class, we are going to call it bean config, just because it sounds like what we're doing. And then inside of here, we need to configure it. So we need to configure and add this @bean, right? Because we're changing from XML to our .java. We want to have this component scan in here, so it's going to scan for all of our components that are in this package. So base packages, and then we have our very base package. It's going to be a configuration still, and we need to have this @enable aspect_j auto proxy to handle aspect configurations. So we have our class. We have to say that this is a bean. We're going to have everything inside of here, so we just need one bean, unlike our XML file that we've done previously. It's in the playlist, link below that like button. But we have the public order, main order bean right here. We have this order, we're just calling it order, we're setting it equal to a new order, and then we have these setters in here. Remember, our order is going to look something like this, where we have these variables inside of it, and then we can set them. So back in our bean config, we are now going to make new items. We have item 1, item 2 of type item. And our item we defined a while ago, it's going to look something like this. We just have everything inside of here. So inside of our bean config, we're going to put these items into our map that we're calling a cart. Think of it like a shopping cart. We went to a store, we picked out items, and we're putting it in a shopping cart. So that's how we're doing. I think this is like the actual item and then the quantity of it, or something like that. But that's how our map would work. We have a key, and then we have a value. So that's how that would work. Then we're going to do a order.setOrderItems, and then we're going to pass in our cart. So we set the order of this, and then we're just going to return our order. The next thing we have to do is go into our app context wrapper, and inside of here we've previously had this private static where we're taking the class path XML and running our XML file in, but now we don't have an XML. So we're going to want to pass in the beanconfig.class. We're passing this class in right here into an annotation config application context, and we're just storing it inside of here. So that's the only thing that changes here. Now we're going to work on running this. To run this, we're going to be inside of our main method. We still get the context from the app context wrapper that we just configured to get its information from the bean config class, not the XML file. We just did that. Now let's run this. So running this like how it is right here, we can see that we have our logo printed out. We have the order of the address, So everything here it checks out like how it's supposed to, right? Well, there's one thing that I changed in here actually, and that's not this line, we'll come back to it in a second, but let's go into our aspect configuration. We can see that I commented out this after part, because with this after part, we're going to get something a little bit different. So we can actually just come in here and we can screenshot this. We can rerun it as well by going into remain, clicking play rerun, and then we can compare. So notice how we have the order total printed out again after this, and we don't have it printed out here. That's because when I went to our aspect configuration, we don't need this to print out twice, right? Why would we need it to print out down here? Well, if we don't want it to print out down here, we just have to comment out that this after part. We don't need this after part to be inside of here. So we'll copy this, Control-Shift/, and this cancels it all out right here, or comments it out. So that with that commented out, we know what this looks like. It looks like we just screenshotted without our order total. Now, if we run it like this, we're going to clear it. We're going to hopefully throw an exception if our code works correctly, and that's what we wanted. We print out our logo, and we have an exception as being thrown when running this right here. This is what we're running, display items, and it's because there's no items in our cart, because we cleared our map. So that's how we would work with configuring aspects and beans with annotations and execution, order of advices. This is great for just identifying what we've done in XML and putting it over to our .java annotations, which is what's used more frequently. In the playlist link below the like button, the next video will be implementing logging using AOP.